In this video, I'm gonna share 3 books that have changed my life tremendously because reading for me was something that I was never interested in until in college I discovered one book that changed everything for me, allowed me to go from a dead broke college kid at Arizona State University to building a successful 7-figure agency and brand where I've been able to partner and work with industry leaders like Patrick Bet-David, Sam Ovens, Cole Gordon, even the Wolf of Wall Street himself, Jordan Belfort, and be able to have a team underneath me who runs the business so that I don't need to be involved in the day-to-day operations. And it all started with learning and reading the right information. So let's get into the 3 books that changed my life forever. The first one is The Psychology of Selling by Brian Tracy. This was the very first book that I ever read on personal development. And although it's called The Psychology of Selling, it really should be called The Psychology of Life and how life works, because the whole concept of the book teaches you that life is sales and sales is life. Because selling in most parts of the world is viewed as icky, as a less than prestigious job. People don't like salespeople. They don't like to be sold to. But Brian Tracy helped me realize that sales was how the world works. If you don't sell yourself first on you, you'll never be able to sell anyone else on you either, because it all starts with you in your head. You have to learn how to sell the most important sale of your life, which is selling yourself on you. And Brian Tracy uses the example in the book, okay? What is the difference between the $1 million racehorse and the second place racehorse that wins significantly less money, okay? It's not much. It's actually just a few inches at the finish line. That's the difference between successful people and unsuccessful people. You see, successful people have daily disciplines that they do that unsuccessful people just don't. They work out every single day, they take care of their body, they eat the right foods, they don't watch TV, they actually read books, whereas unsuccessful people, they don't work out, they don't get sun, they don't take care of their mind because they just numb it with TV, junk food, and everything else to distract them on what they should be working on, which is bettering themselves. That's the difference, right? Just choosing to do the things you know you probably should be doing in the first place, but you simply don't, all right? It's not that much different. So that really was a powerful concept that I learned, because if you're watching this right now and you're like, man, what's the secret to actually becoming successful? What's the secret to building a successful business? What's the secret that's gonna allow me to actually make money and figure out what I really wanna do in life? This book is one of the best books I can ever recommend, because this book changed my life. It taught me that there is no difference between people that are successful and unsuccessful. The only difference is what you choose to do every single day with your time. And the first skill that you should learn is sales. And the most important sell you're ever gonna have to make in your life is selling yourself on you, which is why I'm gonna give you 3 words in the book that Brian Tracy gave me years ago, 10 years ago, almost to this day, when I was a sophomore in college at Arizona State University, that transformed my life. He said, I like myself. 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 He said he would repeat those 3 words to himself every single day when he was driving to different prospects' houses to try to sell them on the products he was selling, to hype himself up, to affirm his subconscious mind and let himself know that everything's going to be okay. That no matter what happens, I like myself. And those may sound corny, cheesy, or cringy, but just say them out loud to yourself right now. Just do it with me, please. I like myself. I like myself. And say it with a smile on your face, because you can't help but smile when you say it. It does sound weird. It does sound funny. It does sound cringy. It does sound corny. I like myself. But the more you say this to yourself every single day, especially when you're feeling down, especially when you're feeling upset, especially when you're feeling sad, or when you don't feel like doing any work at all or pushing yourself to get to your next level, I like myself. 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 I may sound crazy right now, but I don't care, because these 3 words changed my life, because I learned to love myself. And that was the biggest lesson I took from that book. I had to first sell myself on me before I can expect anyone else to take me seriously. You have to sell yourself on you. You have to sell yourself that you are worthy of making more money, that you are worthy of building the business that you want, that you are worthy of becoming the person you've always wanted to be. But it first starts up here. That's exactly why I said this shouldn't be called the psychology of selling. This should be called the psychology of life and how to win it, how to win at the game of life, because it all starts right here. I like myself. The most important sale you can make is selling yourself on you. So shout out to Brian Tracy. You transformed my life forever. RIP. And I hope you're doing well upstairs. Now, the second book that changed my life was called Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And it taught me a very important lesson that you might need to hear, although you might not want to hear it, because I have a lot of friends out there that are trying this entrepreneurial game before they're actually ready. And as a result, they waste a lot of time, energy, and years struggling to make success work. And here's what I mean. In the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki has two dads, okay? One's a rich dad, one's his poor dad. His poor dad is his biological father, his actual dad, okay? The guy who went to school, paid thousands of dollars to get a degree, and is still working paycheck to paycheck and never has more money than he actually needs to just survive. He just can't make enough money to actually live a life that's worth living. Meanwhile, his rich dad, his mentor, which is really just a friend of his dad, who's one of his best friends, who's successful. He's rich, he has real estate, everyone in the town knows him. He is someone that Robert actually aspires to be like one day. He's doing totally different things than his poor dad, his actual dad. His rich dad is talking about financial education and learning how money works. His poor dad is talking about how crooked the world is and how politics always get involved and rich people are greedy. There's two different mindsets going on here, and Robert quickly learns that he should be listening to his rich dad because his rich dad has the life that he wants. And the number one concept that I learned from that book, and that Robert explains in the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, is you should work to learn, not to earn. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means that, for me at least, at that time in my life when I read this book, it taught me that in order to become the person I wanted to be, in order to have the business I've always wanted, I first have to learn the skills I need in order to be able to lead a successful business. What skills do you need to run a business? Well, there's a lot of them, okay? You need sales, you need marketing, you need a little bit of finance and accounting, you need operations, you need customer service, you need multiple skills to be able to run a successful business, especially if you're just starting off, because you're doing everything by yourself. You're a solopreneur, you're doing all departments and it's just you. And if you don't have the skills necessary to be able to do those jobs well, you're never gonna keep clients, and they're never going to continue paying you, and you're going to ruin your reputation in the process. And especially as you start trying to hire people, which is another skill in itself, recruiting and hiring, you're never going to be able to manage or lead them because you don't have those skills first yourself, which is why the argument he's making and that I'm making to you right now is you should first work to learn, not to earn. So I took this advice and I ran with it. I said, what are the skills I need to do? Okay, what are the skills I need to learn? What are the skills I don't have yet? I was already doing door-to-door sales. I already had a good sales foundation, but I didn't know how to market, especially online. I didn't know how to get customers and run ads or create content. And I thought to myself, who can I go learn from that has a business that I want, that can teach me the skills I need to be able to learn and master marketing, to be able to have my own online marketing business one day. And that's what leads me to book number 3, Millionaire Success Habits by Dean Graziosi. This was the book that, when I combined it with the psychology of selling, and when I combined it with Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and then I put all three together to learn what my true purpose was, everything clicked. Because in the book, Millionaire Success Habits by Dean Graziosi, which was the person I actually went to work to learn from, because he had an online business where he taught marketing and he helped millions of people transform their lives through personal development, just like I eventually want to and aspire to do, and actually am doing now, crazy to think about, was the book that I read that changed my life because it taught me another key important lesson for you. What is your true purpose? What is your why? Why do you want the goal that you have right now for yourself, in your personal life, or in your business? For me, at that time, when I was trying to figure out who's the person I can learn from, who's the mentor I can go work for and learn the skills I need, right? From the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I first heard Dean talking on a podcast and I felt like, man, he's sounds a lot like me. He's energetic, he talks pretty fast, he has a lot of excitement. Why don't I go learn from him? And so long story short, I created an opportunity to go work for him. I told him that I'll pack my bags out the next day and I'll go work for him. And thankfully enough, they gave me an interview. I drove out the next day from California to go work for him full time, and I got a job. And I worked for him for almost 3 years, learning marketing, sales, copy, direct response, funnels, everything I needed to learn to be able to do exactly what I'm doing today. But it was because I first read his book, Millionaire Success Habits, where he taught me the exercise 7 levels deep. And this is the most important part of this book that I cannot wait for you to read once you get your hands on this one right here. 7 levels deep. Because in this book, he teaches you an exercise to ask yourself, why do you want the goal that you have? For me, it was I want to make $100,000 a year. I make $100,000 a year. I wrote that down every single day for a whole summer when I was doing door-to-door sales. I make $100,000 a year. I make $100,000 a year. If you look at my journals on my bookshelf back there, I have journal full of just that same thing every single day, day in and day out. I would write it out every single day because to me at that time, $100,000 a year was, almost impossible. Like nobody in my family that I knew of was making that kind of money, at least that I was surrounded by. It just seemed like that's always the first goal, right? I make $100,000 a year. But what that book taught me, Millionaire Success Habits, was go deeper. Okay, you have to go deeper. It's 7 levels deeper than what you think. Your goal and your why is 7 levels deeper than what you really believe it is. Because when you ask yourself, okay, well, Brian, why do you want to make $100,000 a year? And then I say to myself, well, I want to make $100,000 a year because I think that would give me the control and the freedom that I'm looking for. Okay, so you want to make $100,000 a year because you want to have control and freedom. Why do you want to have control and freedom? I want to have control and freedom because I want to be able to work when I want, do what I want, and with the people I want. Okay, so you want to make $100,000 a year so you can have control and freedom of your life, and you want to do that so that way you can work when you want, where you want, and with who you want. Why is that important to you? And you can see how you keep going down. Why? You ask yourself why 7 times. You can't do 6, you can't do 5. It's called 7 levels deep for a reason. And when I did this exercise, I actually had a friend of mine who I trusted for a very long time. I worked with him for a while. He actually took me through this exercise. He asked me the why. So it wasn't just me doing it by myself. I would encourage you to find a friend that you trust as well, who's on the same wavelength as you, who's not going to be judging or, contradicting to your goals. Someone you actually can trust to take you through this exercise and be really receptive to it. He took me through this exercise and asked me the why. And when we got to the 7th level, it was crazy because I started bawling my eyes out. I literally was starting to cry profusely, almost like laughingly at this point to see me like in that state. But I was so emotional because I realized I didn't want to make $100,000 a year because I wanted to have control of my time and my freedom. I wanted to make $100,000 a year to be the leader I felt like I never had growing up, to be the person that I've always wanted to teach me how to be successful, to be the person I desperately felt like I didn't have to mentor me, to be the leader I felt like I never had growing up. You see how powerful that is? Compared to I make $100,000 a year, my true why was to be the leader I felt like I never had growing up, which is when you have that passion, when you have that fire, that conviction, nothing can stop you, okay? It's not just about the physical goal, it's about why you're doing what you're doing. And when you learn why your true purpose is what it is, it'll fire you up like you've never had before in your entire life. And it'll allow you to attack the day, to not make excuses, to take extreme ownership of your life, take full responsibility and just go. Because you have a duty, a responsibility, and a purpose that's bigger than anything you've ever thought before. More than just money, more than just fame, status, relationships, bigger than you've ever dreamed of. And that book, Millionaire Success Habits, is what took me through that exercise and allowed me to tie the Rich Dad Poor Dad book principles together, to tie the Psychology of Selling by Brian Tracy together, and allowed me to uncover my true purpose, my true why. So now whenever I wake up every single day, I don't need to make excuses. And when I want to make excuses, I remind myself of the why. I remind myself of why I'm doing all this in the first place, especially when times get tough. And especially when I have to tell myself I like myself. Because I know it's not about me. It's about the person I used to be and the person I didn't have at the time to teach me all the things I've had to learn through trial, error, sacrifice, blood, sweat, and tears to get to where I am today, and more importantly, where I am going. And that, my friends, is the 3 books that changed my life forever. The Psychology of Selling by Brian Tracy, Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, and Millionaire Success Habits by Dean Graziosi. So I hope this was super helpful for you. Click this video right here to learn How to Be a 3% Man by Coach Corey Wayne. This is definitely in my top 5 books of all time. Click here and I'll see you there.